Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, the tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast. Today we're here with Micke Nyberg from Anglerman Adventures in Sweden. Micke, so happy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be on.
Well, happy to have you here. This is, I have a very strong connection to fishing, and I've never fished in Sweden. So this was really a treat for me to be able to have an opportunity to chat with you, learn a little bit more about fishing in Sweden, but also just about you as a person and your story. Because, you know, as I've noticed, most people that work in tourism have an interesting story. There's something weird that happened along the way. It got them into doing what they're doing. I'm not sure it's weird to everybody, but I know a few people in my life kind of think my path was weird. So, Micke, tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into being a fishing guide / adventure tour operator in this space.
Well, I think I need to do that quite fast then compared to what is in the in the normal world. But my name is Micke, and I'm owner and of operating the Anglerman Fishing Adventures here in Sweden, in central Sweden. By now, it's starting to get cold, of course. Soon winter here again, as often here in Scandinavia. I've been operating as a fishing guide since 2006 in different forms, but I have been operating the Anglerman since 2013, something like that. And still going strong with different challenges along the way, as everyone else in this crazy world. But we are still here, and we are thriving, and it feels good.
Very cool. And so, Micke, how did you get into fishing first, or tourism first, or what was kind of the path that got you into what you're doing?
The village I'm living in and I'm from is we have a really good local river called Älvdalen. It's just 5 minutes away from home. So when you were little, you took the bike and you rode down and you fished and you tried to learn yourself the ways you could do in your rubber waders in best case, or you're just ordinary shoes wading out. But that's the way we started. And fly fishing was something that I saw early, other doing and performing. And I got myself a really easy rod and started off with it and tried to chase the fish. And there's something happened with you when you catch your first dry fly fish on the dry fly. So that's the way it started.
Absolutely. Was there anybody in your family in particular that kind of got you going, or was it? Yeah, I heard you mention you kind of taught yourself a lot of this stuff. I'm just curious if there was anybody in the family.
Yeah, my father was really into fishing, and he took me fishing all over Scandinavia, up in the high mountain areas for Arctic char and trouts and graylings. But unfortunately he passed away when I was really young, at 12 years old. So after that, I was on my own. And then in the fishing way anyway. And then I tried to adapt and conquer the challenges I had in front of me. And somehow I got stuck, as everyone else. I got the fever and still have it.
Curious. Okay, I'm gonna go here. I'm curious. Do you think there was a bit of, you lost your father at 12? That's got to be, I can't even imagine that must be very difficult. Do you think that losing him influenced you to continue to pursue the fishing in any sort of, that helped you maintain your connection with him as you got older? Or do you think it's coincidental? I'm just curious.
I never thought of it like that. But one thing I know that is that what happened probably formed me in the way that I'm being really business driving, because I needed from one night to another solve the problems myself from that age, and
Yeah.
I still do it, and that has formed me. But maybe fishing wise, I'm not sure if that is the case. But I mean, of course, what you have with you since your childhood, you take with you your whole life, and I only develop it as I go on. But of course, it comes a lot from the adventures I had with my father, that I still can remember small of those special moments when things happen. And I know for a fact that I lost the fish for him when I was really, really small. I was netting it, but it didn't go that well. But he took it well. But I saw in him that it was a fish of his life. But I screwed it.
Yeah.
But those things I can actually bring with me myself now when I have a client having this big fish on. And I know that I really have to be careful now when I'm netting this for the client, because I know the feeling when you lose a fish for someone.
Wow. Wow. That's, yeah, I get that. Having been a guide myself, yeah, there's that moment. They've got the fish of a lifetime on, and you're standing there in the river with the net.
Yeah,
It
everything
can
has to go right then.
be intense. I remember growing up, my grandfather was the one that took us fishing. And at the time, I didn't appreciate how patient he must have had to have been to take me and my brother fishing. And I remember this one time, it was back in the day, and he was into keeping fish. So we had a stringer of fish, and my brother and I were more interested in playing with the stringer of fish than actually fishing. And yeah, I remember watching the stringer float away into the lake. As my grandfather very kept himself. I think he was sitting there untangling knots in the fishing line as we did that. It was and at the moment I didn't realize what an amazing man he must have been to not just lose it with us and throw us in the lake as well. So anyways.
No, I understand. So, and that's actually a lot of the things that I bring with me. Also, what my father was also with this kind of big patient and forgetting or forgiving, and always bring his A game, even if I wasn't that good or interested or whatever. But he was always there for us, and maybe one of those things I picked up now, since one of my products that really functions well is fly fishing for kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that in a way is a reconnection, maybe. I don't know, but I'm doing the not tangling now and everything for the kids and their fathers or mothers or whatever they have with them fish for themselves a few hundred feet away. So it's a win-win
Probably
situation.
a lot more of it enjoyable for them as you know, I've been in that situation as well. So
Yeah.
all right. Very, very, very cool. So I want to back to, because one of the things that really caught my attention the first time you and I spoke, we talked a little bit about, you know, it's not necessarily always about the fish. There's a lot of symbolism in the fish. There's a lot of symbolism in the river and the places that we go to do things. I remember someone once said to me, part of why I go trout fishing is because trout just live in beautiful places. You know, it's kind of like an excuse to go to those beautiful places, but more so than that, it's also about the connection. So anyway, our last conversation, you talked about how you really make an effort to make this much more than, I hate to say it, just a fishing trip, because if you're not into fishing, you don't maybe understand what that means, just a fishing trip. But how are you able to take your clients and make it more than just a fishing trip?
That's something that's really important for me, and we call it the Anglerman way, because I have to admit we don't have the best fishing spots in the world, but I compete with them in a way for clients. But I don't have it. I don't have the biggest trouts. I don't have the most epic scenic places, but we have good places. We have good fishing, but plus on that, since my goal and my aim is international clients for most, is to give them also a feeling of exploring and seeing the true countryside of Sweden. And by that means also not coming here and seeing the things, be with it, live with and feel it. And that is the culture we have. I mean, here we have a small town in the middle of Sweden, forests all the way you go, but we have even a local language. We call it Älvdalen here. And that's something that's really interesting for people that, okay, you don't even talk Swedish, we talk Älvdalen here. So that gives them that interesting in what we do. The local food is really important for us. We have really nice local food. So all my activities, we sort them out with the food. So we give them the best of the best by the local thing and by culture, history, and everything that happened this area. There's always so much to talk about and always so much to show them. So that gives them more meaning than just fishing. So that's a key factor for us.
Right. You mentioned the language, and I'm curious. Anytime I go somewhere, there's always something that just surprises me. You know, I have this idea in my head of what Sweden might be like. And I go there and there's going to be something that's going to surprise me because it's not all Swedish meatballs and vodka, right? So what tends to surprise people the most when they come to visit you about Sweden or about the fishing there or just about anything?
The most thing I get is from the clients that come here from international way. I had a lot of Americans the last years now coming, and first of all, maybe they know of Sweden 3 things. They know of Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö, the big 3 cities in Sweden. But they can't tell them, except for Stockholm, where they are. But they don't know anything about this place. So for them to get guided to down right from the airport down and take a train up here, and we meet them up, and for them to see the development of the countryside from the city area in Stockholm, where to up here we have, I mean, we have 1 square kilometer of space per habitant here, so it's not crowded in a way. So they get to see a lot of different things, and that's what they're most interesting for them to see, the diversity of the country.
Okay. Do most of your clients fly into Stockholm then?
They fly to Stockholm or they fly to Oslo in Norway. Because I used to tell people that I'm living very central. It's the similar distance to wherever I want to go in the world. So I have the similar distance to Oslo to Stockholm. So they, cool. Depending on how they want to fly.
How is that distance?
It's a 5-hour drive and about 350 kilometers in road.
Wow. Is it possible to take a smaller flight into your area, or is it only accessible by drive?
It's possible, but it's not recommended. We sort it out by train and we pick them up with transfer instead, so that's the best way to do it.
Okay. Is the train also about 5 hours, or is that quicker?
It's about 3 hours.
Yeah. And I can imagine, I love trains. I think that's a great way to sit back and see a place. And I can imagine that in itself is part of the journey. So,
yeah. And also since a lot of the clients want to do the capital of Scandinavia, Stockholm, 1 or 2 days also. So it's natural for us to combine those things with either in the first end or the last end of the trip, they want to go in Stockholm. So it's easier just to combine the train since it goes directly into the central of Stockholm.
Okay, got it. And are you guys in a position or able to help coordinate things in Stockholm or other places?
Yes.
In Sweden, Norway? Is that through partners and stuff like that, I presume?
Yeah, we can coordinate everything from when you land at your international airport. So that's depending on what level of package you want.
Okay. What's your favorite food? Swedish food?
I have to say maybe smoked reindeer.
Oh, ooh, okay. I don't know why that didn't occur to me as an option, but that. All right. So is that kind of like a jerky?
Explain that. It's a jerky thing, but you can have it in different food. when you're out, you can take it with you. It's standable. It's just good to have with you when you're out in the backpack, and you can do a lot of different dishes with it. So you can have starters, you can have a main courses, you can even have it in desserts. So it's good for bonfire food.
All right. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy I asked that question. I don't know what I was expecting. That's pretty cool. And the reason I was interested in food, because when you and I spoke last, we talked a little bit about ice fishing. And I want to learn a bit more about that, because I think I'd mentioned to you I'd been ice fishing before, but it was just, okay, we're going ice fishing. And it was like, we drove out to some lake, walked out on water. I've done it a few times and pretty much just stood there and fished. But when you were talking about ice fishing, it was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. Just the way it's much more of a whole excursion. So tell us a little bit about ice fishing with you in Sweden, and because I actually wanted to go when I heard you talk about it last time.
Ice fishing is really nice, and it's actually one of the bigger products for us now. It's so even starting to gain and build more up in volumes than fly fishing in summertime, actually. I have two versions of it. We ice fish for Arctic char, or we fly fish for trout. That's our target fishes, the species. We can do it in the forest landscapes around here in the village of Älvdalen, or we can go further up in the same municipality, which is really long, over 2,000 kilometers. 200 kilometers, sorry. And then we go in the high mountain areas where you have this really massive, nice scenery with you can see for miles and miles away, and you can fish in the high altitude alpine lakes. And we travel by snowmobile. So we go far away out. You have all the equipment with you. We gear you up with boots, helmets, clothing, layer 3, and everything is done up. And then we have all the equipment with us. We bring with us the Murikas pan, the Dalarna frying pan that we call it, and then we make fire, and then we make some sort of nice eating out at the same time. So while when I've started them up, so have their holes and they are starting to fish, I do the next thing for them. So they have the lunch and the coffees and everything ready, and then they can start to develop their fishing and try different techniques. So a lot of people think that, oh, ice fishing is boring, you're sitting here freezing. No, it's really, you can ice fish in so many several ways, depending on what you're going to target for and what time of year it is, what kind of weather it is. So it's really diverse, and it's super fun. And since it's not that demanding in skills before, you don't need to know the casting. You don't need to know a roll cast. You have your hole and you have your spot. And if you listen to the guy,
it's easy to hit the target. Is that what you're saying?
But so it can be really rewarding for someone that has not been fishing that much, and also combine that with the scenery, with the nature, with the wilderness, with the wildlife. I think it's a home run every time I go out.
Yeah, I think if my ice fishing experience had been more like what you're describing, where you're out in the wild, not just a lake that you drove to, because it's like, and there might be a bunch of other people standing out there just freezing their asses off. But having you there to make up some food, coffee. Now, do you do overnights on that, or is that strictly day trips, or what does that look like?
We can package it for 1, 2, 3 or more days if they wanted, but often ice fishing they do for 1 or 2 days. Then they are quite happy.
Okay, so you mentioned that the people really like the ice fishing. They're probably surprised. I know I'd be surprised. So what is it about that you think really kind of makes it the most enjoyable?
Just for them to get out in the wilderness that we have around here in this vast big forest, go by the snowmobiles on a small trail, to just get into the nature and feel the new experience that they have with the snowmobile trip, and the beautiness of the snow in the trees. It's like a fairy tale winter landscape they go through with us. So they are just loving that much.
That's something I have to think not a lot of people have done.
No,
I mean, I've been around a little bit. I've met a lot of people who are around. But like I went on this ice fishing trip in the wilderness of Sweden in the middle of
Yeah.
winter. I'm like, wow, that's actually really cool. You've got the aurora borealis, the northern lights, and all that, I imagine.
Yeah, we have that during sometimes, especially now in maybe December, January, and then from that it descends a bit. But January is really a nice one to have to possibilities to see that. So we have everything. So it's really good.
That's very cool. So how does your other people in your life, what's your family situation?
I have a fiance and I have two kids, 17 and 12 years old. So in Sweden, we have hockey players, of course. Both of them were. So that's something I have to do with them on the side. But otherwise, we take the snowmobiles out in the wintertime and having a nice family or with friends going out and doing the similar thing, actually. But we do it as friends instead.
Okay, very, very cool. And your fiance, is she fully supportive? Does she enjoy that lifestyle as well?
Yes, she is, but she's not that maybe into the hardcore fishing as I am. She doesn't understand how I can be out there and chasing that fish for hours and hours, but she can appreciate going out in the wilderness in the high mountain scenery with a nice day and a couple of friends with families. We go around and let the kids play. That's one thing, but she doesn't understand that when I go fishing myself, that's a bit hardcore, she feels.
No, I get that. I've been through that as well. It's kind of hard to explain to people unless they kind of have the same I shouldn't say problem, but the same sometimes it feels like fever, the fishing fever. Yeah, absolutely. So all right, very cool. So if someone wants to come visit you and go ice fishing or fly fishing, what do they need to know? How far out should they plan? How they just contact you through the website? What should they know before they start the process?
The best thing is that maybe checking in the website, of course, see what we have. Another thing, a good thing to do is to hook up on our social media platforms for Instagram and Facebook, for example, to see what we do. We post things from our different adventures and all year around there, so then they can see what they can expect in different activities and what we do. And otherwise, just hit us with an email, and then we tailor-made something that depending on what their goals and ideas are for a nice vacation, and then we do it from there.
Right. So you've been around tourism for quite a while, and I always like to ask people, like, what's a tip or two that you've learned about traveling? Maybe you've learned it the hard way, or you've had clients that no matter how many times you tell them, make sure you do this, they just don't do it. So what are like one or two things that you think you'd want to share with people just to help reinforce that, hey, this is important and this is going to keep you, whether you're coming to Sweden or somewhere else? Anything pop to mind?
Just study what you're actually planning to do, and whatever it is in activity wise, actually make sure that you understand what the one who's providing the product are giving you, because it's important for them to understand. For example, me in ice fishing, since several years back, I've started to, it doesn't matter if they say they have winter boots. I can tell you they don't. Because they have winter boots adapted for the after ski in the Alps or after ski in Colorado, but they don't have winter boots for this, because they need to face the coldest and they need to be waterproof. So that's what we have. We have tried to build those problems away from our products in several years. So both in the summer fly fishing adventures and the winter ones, we provide the customers with all the things that we know that they need to have. They get hats, caps, they get everything that is really important for them, so they don't freeze, they don't get any discomfort during the way just because they haven't thought of it. Those small details.
That's a really, really good point, because having worked in the fly fishing business for quite some time, there's a wide range of people out there that offer fly fishing guiding or any type of fly fishing guiding. And some of them are very much your packing list, bring your stuff, and I'll meet you, in front of the gas station and we'll go fishing. All the way to, full blown lodge with everything. You stay there a week and you can literally just show up with your shaving kit. So it's super important, especially if you're going to do something that's new to you. It's a packing list of what to bring ice fishing. Like you said, doesn't really mean much if you haven't been ice fishing before. Winter boots. Okay. Yeah, I bought a pair of winter boots to wear from my car into the restaurant in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
That's totally different than I was in the Army in Alaska. We had the big white Stay Puft Marshmallow type boots, like vapor barrier boots that like those are winter boots. And they're probably something like what you guys use. So there, if you don't know these things, it's really good to partner with somebody that's got that stuff available for you. Even if it's, honestly, even if it's a little bit more expensive, because, sometimes you get what you pay for, but in the long run, you're going to enjoy the experience. So I think it's a really, really good tip. So thank you.
I think also a lot of the times, I think it's also getting cheaper for them, but because instead they need to have, if they would needed to bring themselves all the winter gear for themselves, they would need to have an extra bag, just dragging along all the countryside of Sweden and in the city of Stockholm. But here, I'm secure that they get proper things to wear, and they also, even if there can be a tear and wear on them, it doesn't matter. It's my rental gear, so there will be no issues. So it's easier for me to have a more secure product for them. They know what to expect when I tell them what to get, and I know how I can solve it. I just need to have different sizes of everything and a lot of it.
Yeah, no, I know that. You pretty much you've got to have, 2 or 3 pairs of each size of boot and waders, and that's a big investment that people need to, so it is important to find somebody that's really invested in it. You told me on our last call how much money you've spent on just your ice fishing packages alone, with snowmobiles and equipment and safety gear and all that stuff. That's a huge investment. But it makes it possible for people like me and others that want to go experience it to do it in a safe way, because that's important, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere in the winter. So very, very good.
Here we are really in the middle of nowhere. It's I used to say to people especially when we fly out with helicopters in summertime, and we have this special fly fishing trips in the remote parts, it goes really fast from being a vacation to a rescue mission if we don't just listen and take it slow. And so it's a really important. And also one thing that we do here, and I've got really good help with our regional Visit Dalarna, that helped us, tour operators here, to get licensed for first aid in wilderness. So that's a really good thing, that I'm secure that I know what to do if something happens, and I have equipment for it, and just to make sure that we can secure a client in a good way if something bad happens, because we are in remote places and we are in extreme environments, but we need to understand it and have respect for it. But we also need to be able to tell people and help them to do right choices before something happens sometimes. So
no, absolutely. It's a super important part. The first rule in the book of like how to be a guide is make sure you come back with the same number of people you left with.
Right? Yes. That's the key factor here. And alive.
And preferably alive. Yes. So unfortunately things do happen, and it's you want to be with somebody that has a clue where to start if and when that happens. So anyway, I appreciate all the insights and learning a little bit more about your operation and what you're doing. And you had mentioned and assured me that if anybody's listening to this, that they should reach out to you and start a conversation, and you're going to take amazing care of them. I'm going to have a link right to your website where they can reach out to you. I'm going to have that right in the notes here below the recording. So anybody that's listening to this, or if you've registered at bigworldmadesmall.com to receive the emails, you'll receive a special link that'll go right to Micke that can, so he'll know where you came from, and he's going to take amazing care of you and show you what he loves so much about fishing, but not just fishing in Sweden. So Micke, thank you so much for being here and sharing a little bit about your life and your world. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you real soon, Micke.
I hope so too.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.